Hello YouTube and welcome to the channel. Now then, on today's video we are going to be reviewing this. I'm very excited actually. We're going to be reviewing this. It's the latest offering from Eachine in their sort of 400mm Warbird series of RC planes. It's a Mitsubishi A6M Zero, or a model of. Now you might remember the previous Spitfire video. Now I still consider myself an absolute novice when flying RC planes. And up until that point, before I'd actually flown the Spitfire, I'd never touched one in my life. And these things have got some very clever electronics inside, and they just sort of with gyroscopic assistance, and they make the job of flying these little planes an absolute doddle. Honestly, if you've never had any experience, you can pick one of these up and you can basically fly it straight out of the box. It is that easy. Now this particular example has been very kindly donated to the channel for review by Banggood, so big thumbs up to them. There will of course be a link in the description to where you can get this from, and there will also be a promo code where you can get some money off this should you wish to buy it. And if you were thinking of purchasing one of these off Banggood, I think they've got them on retail for 92 quid, which is about $114, which is, to be honest, for what you get, isn't a bad price, I don't think. Now before we actually get into opening the box and seeing what we get, I'm going to need to address something. I had quite a few salty comments in the last Spitfire video, more so than any other I've ever produced. But number one is you do not need any kind of license to fly this thing in the UK. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but here in the UK, you don't need an operator ID, you don't need to take a test, you don't need a flyer ID. This thing is under 250 grams. So you can literally go out straight out the box, no license, no mither, and go and fly it. You will not get £1,000 fine, blah 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 blah. You do not need a license to fly this thing. Secondly, there were a lot of comments like, oh well, you're a novice, why did they send you a plane to fly, blah blah blah. These are specifically aimed at people with no experience. You can literally, well, we're going to see in a bit anyway, hopefully. You can literally take these out of the box, stick some batteries in them, charge the battery up and fly it. Like I say, the very clever electronics in this thing that gyroscopically assist you while you're flying it. So the reason they send novices like me aircraft like this is because they are specifically designed for novices. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's crack this box open and see what we actually get inside. Now I am very excited. I mean, I do love RC cars, but I've always had a soft spot for like Second World War Warbird, so I am genuinely excited. Right then, in the box we get our instruction manual. Now it's very important you read and digest this. There are several features on the plane, like safety features, that you need to know how to use, so we'll get into that in a bit. We get stuck to the desk. We get a couple of spare propellers. We get a two-bladed prop, a three-bladed prop, and of course there's one on the actual aircraft itself. I'm not sure, I think they're slightly different diameter, so they might give you slightly different flying characteristics. And if there's anyone that can tell me in the comments, because I'm not an expert with aircraft, so if there's anyone that can tell me in the comments, leave it in the comments, and we can all benefit from your knowledge. We also get 3 batteries. This is the 3 battery version. We get our landing gear and we get a little battery charger. Now these batteries are tiny, but in the Spitfire they do give it a decent runtime because it's only got a little motor in it. We get the transmitter itself. Now this thing does look a little bit daunting if you've ever sort of been used to RC cars, but again there's several features on this. There's an aerobatic button, there's a toggle switch where you can basically turn off the beginner mode, which lets you have more control of the plane, but to begin with, we should be using that beginner mode, don't you worry. But like I say, it can be quite daunting, but it's pretty self-explanatory. And last but not least, we've actually got the aircraft itself, and this thing is absolutely fantastic. That is just as nice as the Spitfire. Now, they've done an absolutely beautiful job of modelling a Mitsubishi Zero. It looks fantastic. The only thing I'm not 100% keen on is they've got like a little pilot in there, but it's like a little flat sheet of plastic. But apart from that, that thing looks absolutely epic. I mean, if you go, we could have a dogfight with the Spitfire. You could go and buy, they do a Corsair version of this, a Chance Vought Corsair. So you could go and have some sort of like a Pacific dogfight if you bought them. Anyway, I'm getting a bit carried away now. So what we'll do is I shall charge a battery up, we'll stick the landing gear on, and I'll go through some of the basic features with this thing, and hopefully if the weather improves we can take it outside and try and fly it. But look at that, is beautiful. Now while I'm waiting for the batteries to charge up, there's a few things I want to go through with you before I forget. The transmitter takes 4 AA batteries which you have to supply. The batteries actually live in a little compartment underneath, and they just literally slide in there into the nose. Don't worry if your motor or your propeller looks bent, that offset is supposed to be there, yeah, because of the torque of the motor. Now a couple of things which I learned while flying this particular aircraft, and I found it was probably useful if you know them, is that these propellers are like for the novice, and they pop off when you land. If you crash, they'll just pop off. So it might be worth painting them like a bright colour, because sometimes you can't find them in the grass, which is quite annoying. Second of which, again, if you are flying on grass, I wouldn't bother attaching the landing gear. I'd only use the landing gear if you're on hard surfaces, because if you land in grass and you tend to stop suddenly. I did actually break one of the landing gear on the Spitfire where it's held into the wing. So that's my 2 top tips for flying these things. Is paint your propellers, because you might lose them, and if you're flying on grass or you're over grass, don't bother fitting the landing gear. Right, that's the batteries all fully charged. Even though it's only a little USB charger, because of the size, these things don't take 5 minutes. That's good. I painted the propeller white last night, which will pay dividends later on. If you're trying to find a black propeller in grass, you'll know what I'm talking about. I just plug a battery in, and now the batteries in these are a very snug fit. They can be a little bit tricky to get in. I just wanted to show you the gyros, trying to keep this thing straight and level. Basically, if you alter, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, if you alter the attitude of the plane in any way, the gyros will try to compensate by altering the control surfaces. You can probably hear it more than anything else. If you can hear that, that's the little gyros inside trying to keep this thing straight and level. Now you can calibrate the gyros before flight. I'm not going to turn the controller on at the moment, but you basically turn the controller on and you make sure the plane is on a flat surface, and you can hold the sticks like that, and that will calibrate the gyros inside the plane for you. Now it does have a safety feature before flight, and that is you have to unlock the throttle, and to do that you basically turn the transmitter on. You move the throttle to its maximum position, its minimum position, and now that is unlocked, so you should be able to use the throttle. So anyway, there's some basic safety features. I'm not going to go through everything in the instructions, because there's absolutely loads of information, and it probably would make for an incredibly boring video. But what we really want to know is what this thing flies like. So that's precisely what we're going to do now. It's a beautiful day here in the UK. The weather's very calm and still, so it's perfect. So hopefully we'll get some good footage. Okay then, back inside, what did we think of Eachine's A6M Zero remote control plane? Let's go for some good and bad points, shall we? Let's not break the tradition. Now I'm really struggling to think of things I don't like about this, because just like with the Spitfire, this thing is a fantastic piece of kit. But anyway, when I was flying it, the tail wheel fell off. Just sort of randomly dropped off while we were piloting around the field. You got no chance finding that thing, little black tail wheel. I mean, it didn't make too much difference. It's only really there for if you're landing on hard surfaces. But like I say, the tail wheel did drop off and it's been lost to the ether. Now, the second thing I didn't like about this thing was these two-bladed props that the Eachine supply. Now, I asked earlier on in the video what the difference was between the 3 and the 2-bladed prop, and I'm not just talking about the number of blades. What difference it seems to make to the aircraft, and the only difference I can see is that these 2-bladed props make this thing fly like a piece of crap. Just by chance, I honestly at the time I thought there was something wrong with this. It didn't seem to fly right at all. I mean, I'm only a novice, but there just seemed to be something up with it. But by chance I actually broke the 2-bladed prop that was on it when I hit the ground, and that's when I stuck the 3-bladed prop on, and it just transformed the handling. Now I don't know whether, because these are a larger diameter, I don't know whether it's like having an extra big flywheel on the front and it's a case of the tail wagging the dog, if you like. But these 2-bladed props just don't seem to make this thing handle very nice. Now, the third thing I wasn't terribly keen on was the battery stowage on this thing. Getting the batteries in and out of this thing is a pain in the arse, or it can be, especially when you've got them hooked up to the connector. There's not quite enough room, and I've got a sneaky feeling it won't be long before this little battery door gives way, or you end up damaging a wire on the battery or something. Anyway, that's enough negativity. Let's have some good points, and there are plenty of them. First of which, the price. I don't think it's a lot of money. It's $114, sort of 90 odd quid to spend on something like this. It flies superb, and you know, it's a great introduction and a cheap introduction to RC planes. And straight off the bat, you know, you get something you can fly as a novice and fly really well. The second good point I've got written down on my little list is the looks. I mean, you've got to admit that this thing looks absolutely superb, and when it's flying in the air, it genuinely does look like a proper little Mitsubishi Zero. I mean, down to even the plastic canopy that they've put on these, rather than the sort of painted polystyrene canopy that you get on the others. This plastic canopy looks absolutely superb. It looks like a proper little model, and they've done an absolutely bang-up job with the way this thing looks and flies. Third thing, if you buy the 3-battery version, you'll get sort of 45-50 minutes of fly time. If you leave this thing on half sort of throttle, you can quite easily buzz around for 10-15 minutes on each one of those little batteries, no problem whatsoever. Now, the next good thing about this little Eachine plane is probably one of the most important aspects of it, and that's the ease of which you can fly it. I mean, I'm no RC pilot. It's very rarely I take the Spitfire out, and it's been a good while. And after I changed the prop on it, within a couple of minutes I was doing steady circuits of the field. It really does flatter the beginner, and it is super easy to fly. I can't tell you how straightforward and easy this thing is to fly. It's got mild manners. I mean, like I say, I found it better on the mid position. The beginner is a little bit restrictive after a while. It doesn't allow you to sort of maneuver the plane as well, but as soon as you turn it to mid, there's just enough gyroscopic assistance there to help you, and it's so easy to fly. Literally anybody could pick this thing up, and within a few minutes you could literally be flying it around that field, no problem. And last but not least, the best good point about this is it is so much fun to fly. I thoroughly enjoyed myself piloting around that field. Even though the weather conditions were a little bit trying for it, it was still loads of fun. Did what I want. It really does flatter your inexperience. It's just a load of fun. It really put a smile on my face, and that's all that matters. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Right then, conclusion time. Would I recommend Eachine's A6M Zero to anyone? And I'm going to say the answer is a definitive yes. This thing is super easy to fly, loads of fun. Like I say, if you're a novice, I can't begin to tell you how straightforward and easy it is to get yourself airborne with something like this. It takes all the frustration out of it. I mean, there's some really clever electronics in this thing, and it just flies really well. And if you're thinking about getting into RC aeroplanes, and I strongly suggest you try it at least once, you could do far worse than something like this. So I can't recommend these little Warbirds highly enough. They get a massive thumbs up from me. As ever, there will be some links in the description to where you can get this from. Banggood, I've very kindly supplied a promo code for this thing, so you can get some money off it. That will be in the description as well. If you found this video of some use and interest, please give it a big thumbs up, and please subscribe to the channel. It makes a massive difference. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again very soon. Thank you.